Good morning, good evening, good whatever time it is you're watching this. I'm Dave with Cups and Handles, and in this quick market recap, we're going to break down today's SPY price action, identify the key technical levels that matter, and discuss what I'm anticipating for the next trading session. We only have a few minutes, so let's jump right into the charts. Hey everybody, welcome to today's technical analysis video. It's going to be a shorter one, as we did have a very bullish day, and there's a lot to cover, but at the same time, there's still a lot left in the air coming later tonight and earlier tomorrow. So it's still too soon to say if this is going to be changing the trend, but let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's first start off with kind of just going over today's session. And to do this, we're going to go to the 15-minute time frame. It's a little hard to see compared to like the 5-minute time frame, but we will work with it. Now, there's this big yellow channel here. I will explain that in a couple minutes. Now, today we had an interesting day because we had the put wall at the 733, the call wall at the 740, and we were, by all regards, trading between that level for the majority of the day. I had the anticipation that we would actually pull down towards that put wall, perhaps even test that 733.89 support, but we didn't. We had a very bullish day after we did see that little bit of selling earlier in the session. We pretty much were off to the races. Now, there's a few reasons why that occurred. We saw the dollar pull down by ironically, by over $1 today. The DXY, and that caused a lot of bullishness. We also saw the Bank of Japan unwinding positions a little bit. So we saw the USD JPY, basically the USD to yen ratio, or yen to USD ratio, whatever it is. That dropped from the 163 down to the 158. Okay, within the span of about 10 to 20 minutes. That actually caught me off guard quite a bit. And that's actually why we saw some of this selling earlier. After that occurred, with, being in tandem with the dollar dropping down is usually fairly bullish for the market. Now, something to consider is that when the dollar drops, that's usually suggesting that there's more dollars in circulation. If there's more dollars in circulation, that generally is suggesting that there's more money to be pushed into the markets. So we did see quite a lot of buying from that. Now, going over the actual resistance levels at this point, we had this very crucial resistance at the 742.60. You can see that during the intraday, we hit that level, tested it basically, started to pull down, and right towards the end of the day, we had a really large candle. I mean, I actually think it was in the after hours that we saw that pretty large candle. And we basically went right up to the next resistance range, which is at that 744.30. Now, where we are at currently is the market overnight is at the 744, almost basically on the dot. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and delete this resistance range. We're not going to delete this resistance range yet, but we're now going to change it to a support. And we've talked about that many times before, that resistances generally turn into support ranges. Okay, it may not be underneath us right now. And if we do start selling off from this range, we will change this back to a support. Well, ideally we would move it up to that 745.20. But where do we go from here? Trading is a skill that can last for a lifetime. Join my Patreon for live classes, my personal market analysis, premium Discord access, and direct communication with me. Invest in yourself, become a more consistent trader, and build a better future for yourself and your family. Visit patreon.com/wooksy to join today. Thank you so much, and let's return back to the video. And that's kind of the big question right now is where do we go from here? And this is where I want to go to the hourly time frame. Okay. Now on the hourly time frame, we have a couple different potential scenarios, and ignore all the supports and resistances right now. I want you to mainly pay attention to the blue channel and the yellow channel that we have drawn currently. Now, this blue channel again was the major selling channel. And with today's price action and the overnight price action, we obviously see this channel being broken. Now, there's a couple different scenarios that could be occurring right now. Either one, we're actually creating this buying channel, which is this yellow channel, and we're going to basically start heading up again. Market's going to turn bullish. We're going to see our daily support starting to head upward, and you know, things are going to be fine and dandy for the market. Or we're seeing a very large expansion of this selling channel. And what I want to bring up now is on the 4-hour time frame, we still have this super large inverse cup. And we talked about this in yesterday's video, is that with this inverse cup, what do we expect out of the bottom? So let's draw that inverse cup. Okay. What usually happens with cups, whether they're a bullish cup or a bearish cup? We generally see handles. This can still be that handle pushing us down right back into that channel. Now, if that's going to be the case, then this is extremely bearish. This would expand our channel. Basically, this channel would look something more like this, showing some of that downside expansion. However, we can't account for that just yet. Now, something that I do want to bring up is that with this potential handle forming, sorry if I'm talking slow, I'm super tired and there's a ton going through my mind right now. We did potentially close this cup. So from this cup closing, we do expect some bearish structure at this point. We do expect a little bit of bearish structure, and kind of like that large inverse cup and handle, we expect an additional handle to the downside to pull us upward if we're going to see bullishness from this. Now, what I would really expect and what's happened in the past, I know I haven't really shown this in my videos yet because I haven't been doing these daily videos long enough to show everybody what's going on with these channels. But the top of this selling channel should turn into a support, okay? Remember, resistances generally turn into supports. So if we're going to be truly breaking this channel, then what we'll see is this handle bouncing off the top of this channel and heading upward. Okay, and very likely we'll be seeing that buying channel expand at that point. Now, if that's not the case, if we're going to see selling, then obviously we'll be expanding that selling channel. Now, moving into tomorrow, and actually 3 hours on the dot from when I'm recording this video, we have the Bank of Japan monetary policy decision. Now, I don't think they'll be doing a rate hike, but I haven't checked into the expectations or anything else like that. I know they did a rate hike last month. Um, However, they really need to rescue the yen. And they did that a little bit today, but they still have a very, very long ways to go with that. With that said, if they do decide to rate hike tonight, that should be very bearish for our market. Okay, because the Japanese markets and the United States markets are very, very closely tied. It's not as much as, or it's not like the South Korean market compared to the United States market. The Bank of Japan and Japan overall are basically the money house of the United States. They carry a very, very large amount of our treasuries. They are, one of our largest FX dealers, Forex market dealers. So if we get the rate hike out of Japan, that should be pretty bearish. Now, I kind of want to preface this as well. Over, the next couple weeks, we'll have to find out. But this is the time of year that the Bank of Japan always starts to do their major unwinds. Okay, and we can go back to the charts here. Let's go ahead and turn off the drawings. And let's just see this June, or not June, but end of July through September range. So last year will be a little bit different because we did pull out of that major tariff disruption. But we did have a little bit of selling in there. May not seem like a lot, but the market basically did drop over $20. That was part of that unwinding. But they also unwound quite a bit during the actual tariff disruption. Back in 2024, we had a major unwind. Now, it's not going to seem like that in terms of the price action because, again, the SPY was a lot less compared to now. It was back in the 500 range. But we went from that 552 all the way down to the 498. It was actually the 497 something, if I remember correctly. But basically, we lost, 50 something dollars on the SPY. Okay, so that was a very large disruption. And let's check a little bit before that. We see that the prior year as well, in 2023, basically right on the dot, soon as August hit, started to see selling, selling, selling. So this is generally the time that the Bank of Japan really starts putting on that pressure to unwind positions. Now, one of the reasons why is because we don't have any FOMC meetings in August. That's when the Fed chair goes to Jackson Hole Symposium, and basically the FOMC is on pause for a month. There's not going to be any changes in the monetary policy or anything to mess with the Bank of Japan, basically. So that's always the time that they try to really unwind positions. And historically, we generally see selling that time of year. So this is right in that window. Okay, we're coming up right on that window to start seeing major unwinding. Okay. Does it mean it's going to occur this year? Doesn't always happen, but it has happened over the last 3 years. Okay, so keeping that pattern, basically the same, we should have that expectation that they're going to attempt to do that. Now again, with today's price action, as you can see, they basically wiped out over 3 months of the yen being extremely low within the period of just a few minutes. Okay, it's very concerning, majorly concerning. And this can kind of be a prelude to what's getting ready to come for the rest of the month, potentially the next 2 months. If we continue to see the Bank of Japan unwinding, we will be seeing selling on, the overall markets. So that's something to definitely be aware of. Now, with that said, we'll end the video kind of on this, is that my expectations for tomorrow is we don't really have a lot of support to grab onto right now. We had such a massive day that the support ranges are basically all the way down at the 730. We have a support at the 733, but nothing really too close. Okay, so if the Bank of Japan news is bad, if it comes out bad tonight and we start seeing selling, I fully anticipate for us to start heading down towards that 733.89. Okay, but with that said, if we continue to see the markets being bullish, then I fully expect to start seeing some of these resistances taken out. We have a resistance range at the 746.40. We have a resistance at the 748.70. Okay, so that's kind of our targets right now. They're very far away, but those are the targets we have to really focus on, is that we always want to be looking at our supports and resistances. Now, something else to consider as well is that yesterday, Wednesday FOMC, we did push into the lower Bollinger. And as you can see, every time we push into the lower Bollinger, we generally see very large buying. Okay, I was expecting a second day push into this. We did not get that. Historically, we usually do, but today was just very bullish overall. The Microsoft earnings on Wednesday evening were very good. So that definitely pushed a lot of weight back into the markets with the dollar dropping as well. The conditions were just really set for a lot of bullishness. Now, we also had the PC and GDP data come in weaker today, or cooler. Um, Again, cooler data generally attributes the market overall to bullishness. And that was also a big part of it. So we had a lot of different um, signals that pulled together and created that bullishness. So we can see a continuation of it, but we have to be very careful at this point. The Bank of Japan historically likes to unwind this time of year. And if they unwind, we will be seeing the market drop very hard. So just keep that in mind. I will talk to you in tomorrow's stream or in tomorrow's video. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening, great morning whenever you listen to this. And thank you for watching my videos as always. Take care, everybody. That wraps up this market recap. If you found the analysis helpful, please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who would benefit from these daily market breakdowns. It really does help support the channel and allows me to continue creating free educational content for everybody. As always, have a trading plan before you enter a position, manage your risk, and remember, we're not trying to predict the market, we're trying to prepare for it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.